The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by SIDEBAR, its guests, callers, and advisors are not necessarily those of the management, ownership, or production unit of ILS Verizon Media Group. SIDEBAR, a 103.5 The Beat podcast, is a production of ILTV Studios and may not be reproduced or represented, in part or in its entirety, without the express written consent of Verizon Media Group. SIDEBAR is the intellectual property of Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2024. All rights reserved.
Welcome to SIDEBAR 103 The Beat podcast powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna, and today I'm on location interviewing somebody that I feel a lot of persons may have questions for, although they probably also have never met you in person. I'm here with Mr. Craig Delancey. I want to say the right department now.
Buildings control.
Building control. So what is your exact title?
I'm the buildings control officer
right.
in the division of buildings control.
All right.
And this is under the Ministry of Works and Family Island Affairs.
All right. Awesome. So you're the guy that people come to, or that it eventually comes to when persons want to build something or they want to adjust an existing building, correct?
Yes. A building construction involves normally at least 3 agencies. Now, if you want to make adjustments to the building that has already been approved, you have to go through the process of resubmitting drawings, showing the revised design or size, and the drawings are then sent to the Department of Physical Planning first. They would approve it based on setbacks and height restrictions.
Okay.
If that is okay, then the file goes to the Department of Environmental Health. And if you made certain changes that affect environmental items such as your kitchen and bathroom layouts, bedrooms, then they would review it from that point of view. If they are satisfied that it meets their standards, then that application comes back to us. And then we go through it for the integrity of the building. So if you had to make adjustments with the size, that may affect the structural elements of the building. And so we would then review those items to make sure that if the foundation was changed or the columns and the tie beams, the roof, we would make sure that it meet the minimum code standards.
All right. Okay, so now I have 2 questions. I'm trying to remember both at the same time. One being, so it's possible to adjust the foundation after a building's been constructed?
No.
That's what I thought.
This is I'm talking about an application that might have been approved
right
in a certain manner.
Okay.
And you want to make adjustments to it
right.
prior to construction. But,
prior to construction.
Right.
But like if it's already constructed, the size of your foundation may limit what you could do to the building.
If the foundation is already down for a single-story building, it's designed to a certain size. And for a single-story building, normally the foundation footing is normally 16 inches wide by 10 inches deep, with 2 reinforcement bars, number 5 bars. So if you're going up to 2-story, then this is additional loads being sent to the foundation. And so according to the code standards, you would have to have the foundation done to 24 inches wide and 12 inches deep, with at least 3 number 5 reinforcement bars placed in that foundation footing. If the building is going 3 or more stories, then it should be designed by an engineer, structural engineer, who would look at the framing and whether the reinforced concrete framing, the reinforcement is done differently. And also you may even have to increase the wall thickness from an 8-inch block to a 10-inch block in order to accommodate the extra loads from that building.
And so all this is that's just to compensate for gravity. That's not I mean, like, all these things are in place just to make sure that the building has the integrity to withstand existing.
To stand up, yes.
Right. Okay. So that seems like a lot. And so my follow-up question to that is, and we'll answer it probably in the next segment. I see all type of people throwing up things all over the place where it look like they're just adding on to their buildings, right? Sometimes you see a permit number, sometimes you don't see a permit number. My concern is the general public aware of the reasoning why it's so important to go through the process? You know what? Let's take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to dive deeper into why there are so many rules and what the rules are there for. All right. So you're listening to Sidebar 103 The Beat podcast powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. We'll be right back after this.
International events and production, Alive, Bahamas Air, Everybody Wins Live, and Field of Vibes Bahamas Weekend presents
the Evolution Concert on Saturday, March 29th at Clifford Park, featuring Vibes Cartel and Friends.
Bahamas, Nassau, where it's Saturday the 29th of March.
It's one of the biggest events to hit the shores of Nassau, Bahamas.
Get ready for Adi the Teacher, the Dancehall King, aka the World Boss, Vibes Cartel.
Real bad man, no muggle in a shot.
Log into our official airline Bahamas Air for travel specials. It gets better. We're also giving away a brand new Cybertruck.
And up to $50,000 in cash and prizes at the concert. Compliments of Everybody Wins Live.
Log into our website, feelthevibesweekend.com.
For tickets, tables, skyboxes, and more info.
Visit Ticket Flare or email intlevents242@gmail.com.
WhatsApp or call 1242-808-2369.
A member cartel over there.
Welcome back to Sidebar 103 The Beat podcast powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna, and today I have with me Mr. Craig Delancey, Buildings Control Officer. I feel like there must be more. You know, I live in the Bahamas, so I'm used to people having more things attached to their name. For a person whose job is so important, I don't know, I just always assumed that you had like actual letters that were attached that you wasn't forcing us to say, you know, but Buildings Control Officer at the Ministry of Work.
Yes, well, I mean, I'm the Buildings Control Officer. Our purview covers all construction within the country. That includes plan approvals, site inspections. We deal with dilapidated buildings. If a building needs electrical inspections, plumbing inspections, structural review, all those areas that come under the Buildings Control Department.
Right. That's why I like doctor, but you know, I feel like engineers, you guys organize things differently.
I'm a professional architect.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, as an architect. So we're talking about the build environment, the rules that are in place, the processes that go into being able to build within the Bahamas, right? Mm-hmm. I know for a lot of people, they may feel like, what all this for? Because your granddaddy used to build things, your daddy used to build things, everybody used to build things for years and years and years, generations. You have some buildings that have been around from colonial times, still around, and they feel as though these rules are in place just for the sake of it, and they don't necessarily need these. But as an architect, as the Buildings Control Officer, why is it important for us to have these rules and these specifications, and why is it important for persons to follow them?
Okay, as in any other country, there are rules and regulations, and those are established to maintain some order in the construction industry when it comes to building. And with those regulations, which we have in place, the Bahamas has had the Building Regulation Act in place from 1973. And so with the Building Regulation Act, it outlines minimum standards that the minister responsible for the act can publish through the building code. The building code outlines these standards or minimum standards for construction, and that helps to maintain a sort of normalcy and minimum integrity of buildings and how they should be constructed and used. And so we have the Building Regulation Act that outlines that the way you build, that you need to apply for a building permit, and you shouldn't build unless you have a valid building permit, which means the application has gone through the process of being approved, paid for, and then you are entitled to start construction. The law also indicates that if you start construction without a valid building permit, we can make you tear down the building or pull down the building if you don't have a valid building permit. As you may know, in recent times, we've been dealing with unregulated communities where there were numerous buildings built without a building permit. And that goes for general construction as well. If you decide you want to build $1 million house without a permit, the government or this ministry would have the right to tell you pull it down if you cannot get it regularized.
Yeah. So what is the, I guess, the minimum requirement? Like, so before I come in and say, okay, I need a permit, because some person may say, well, I just build in a shed. Do I need a permit for that? Or I'm building something onto my house. Is it every structure or?
Okay. Under the Town Planning Act and the Building Regulation Act, it outlines some minimum standards. If you're adding on to your residence, once you have a roof on it, you are required to apply for a building permit. Okay. If you're building a shed that is a maximum of 100 square feet, 10 by 10, and with a height of less than 8 feet, then you wouldn't necessarily need a building permit for a storage shed. Anything larger, you would have to apply for a building permit.
Okay, that just put things in play. So I know sometimes you'll drive past an area that's being constructed for the general public to know, like, what is best practice or what is required practice. And I've been to, because I've been with you when we do things at the Unregulated Community Action Task Force. Sometimes somebody would have a permit, but they didn't have it properly displayed. All right, is it required that the permit number is properly displayed at all times while construction is happening?
Yes. You are supposed to have your permit number visibly located on the site where it would be visible to anyone who passes by. A lot of times persons are delinquent in posting their permit numbers on the site, but it is a requirement.
Yeah, and so I would imagine that, because once again, this is the Bahamas, all right? And I've been in some homes and some buildings where the walls seem to not like each other. And like a couple of years in, the walls have a disagreement. They look like they're trying to separate. And so I've seen things like that. Is that something that is concerned with the integrity of how the building was constructed? or is it also a matter of maintenance of the building itself? Because I know like a lot of these buildings are super old. For example, we had the Reinhardt Hotel the other day where it collapsed.
Yes, well, you would find the very old buildings may not have been designed or constructed to minimum code standards.
Okay.
In the past, prior to the act coming into play, their buildings were constructed out of stone and tabby wall construction, which is not really
What's tabby wall?
well, it's a method of construction where they're using more like stones and cement to form the walls rather
Oh.
than a proper mixture.
Okay.
And nowadays we tend to use masonry blocks, which are supposed to meet certain minimum standards for pressure.
Right.
And so nowadays you need to or most of the buildings nowadays are built to the minimum standards. Now, you also have persons who may not be good builders or know what they're doing or
Right.
experienced builders, and some of the workmanship can be
Questionable.
not to the standard that it should be.
You said it better than me. You said it better than me.
Yes, so that is an issue, and those, as far as establishing quality of standards for construction and the workmanship, you need to really have some other requirements in place, like there's the Contractors Act, where persons would be qualified to do certain type buildings, and in order to do that, they need to prove themselves that they are able to do it. So just like in any other area, you have persons who are experienced or professionals, and then you have those who just as a hobby or
Right.
whatever, they
Everybody
try
think they
to
could
do
cook.
it themselves.
Right. Right. So going back to requirements for, and I guess we could keep it to residential mostly. All right. Requirements for when persons are building a house. You buy a yard, you buy a piece of property. I'm assuming whatever the square footage of it might be, right? And you're restricted on how much of that you're allowed to have a footprint on. For the people out there who are saying, hey, if I buy a yard and the yard is I guess 1,000 square feet or however big my yard is, why can't I build my house all the way to the road?
Okay. Well, here again, these are part of the zoning requirements or standards that are established by the Department of Physical Planning.
Right.
They would look at the size of the property, and they would be able to tell you what your setbacks should be. The standard setbacks for a property that is, say 50 by 100,
Right.
you would have to be 20 feet from the front, 20 feet from the rear. And if it's a single-story building, you have to be a minimum of 8 feet setbacks from the sides. If you're going 2-story, then they would increase the side setbacks to 10 or 12 feet.
Okay. So that means you can't go out as far on the.
No. Here again, too, you're looking at environmental factors,
Right.
and also life safety factors. Because if you're building right on your boundary and your neighbor is doing the same thing, if a fire breaks out, you would end up having the flames and
Jump from house down.
catching onto the other property.
Right.
So there are reasons for having setbacks. and that is one of the major ones.
I imagine that there are similar things in place because we live in a hurricane-prone area of the world.
Hmm.
So I imagine that there are also things that put
Well,
in precaution for that.
yeah, to some extent, if you have debris flying around, or if your roof unfortunately comes apart, you don't want it really damaging the adjacent property or someone else.
Well, that's for space. I'm just thinking about in terms of integrity, like there would be specifications as to, I guess I always hear these things about hurricane clips on
Yeah,
roofs and
well,
stuff.
for the construction of the building,
Right.
when you're looking at hurricanes and the effect of hurricanes, basically, if you're building, the roof itself must be tied properly into the walls or the frame of the building. And normally the rafters have to be fastened with hurricane clips or hurricane straps. That's normally the standard methods for making sure your roof is attached properly. If the building is out of another material, let's say if you're doing metal construction using steel frame, then it's slightly different. But here again, it has to be bolted together in order to stay intact or to somewhat withstand some of the hurricane wind forces.
To ensure integrity. Let me ask you this, right? And I'm asking you this as an architect. I noticed that different buildings have different rooftops. All right. So when you go at homes, even though it's usually wooden, like a wooden roof with shingles on it. But then some of the more commercial buildings, whether they be steel or anything, you'll see that they have like cement tops. And is there a preferred one? Is there like a rating system to say, oh, this one is ideal or this one is just better for residential? What goes into that decision making process?
It's more conventional construction,
Okay.
and costing plays a major part in what persons end up using.
Okay.
You would find for residential buildings, basically it's a wood construction or timber frame roof with asphalt shingles, which is pretty common and reasonably priced material. Some people would use standing seam metal roofing finish, which is a little more, I would say, modern, and you'd see it more on larger buildings or commercial buildings. But there are some residences that are moving towards that too, and in a way, it helps with fire.
It doesn't catch fire,
Like
easily.
the recent fires in California,
Right.
the sparks and stuff jump from building to building, causing other buildings to become engulfed in flames. So if you have a metal finish roofing, that would be a lot more fire retardant than if it was an asphalt or a cedar shingles finish.
Yeah, and then I know in the old days people used to have like the tin roof, but I think was the reason.
Well, a lot of times,
Is it loud?
back in the earlier days, the corrugated tin roofs were not insulated, and so the heat transfer was much more back then.
Right.
But nowadays,
we have
people
insulation now.
Yeah, nowadays people are insulating their roofs, even the asphalt shingle finish roof, and a reason for that is to increase their energy conservation. To especially someone who's running a central air conditioning system, it will, but if the roofs are insulated, it will cut down or reduce the heat transfer, and the efficiency of their air conditioning system would be increased.
All right. We're going to take another commercial break. When we come back, we're going to get into some more questions. You're listening to Sidebar 103 The Beat Podcast, powered by ILTV.
Edenwell has expanded their testing menu. We now offer blood work, drug screening, and so much more. Our hours of operation are Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., located on 11 Madera Street. We are here for all of your laboratory needs, with fast and reliable lab work done by our friendly and knowledgeable staff. Let us help you take the needed steps to stay in the know about your health. Let's keep working towards a healthier you. Stay Eden well.
Tired of driving around from place to place just to get your car insured and licensed? Frustrated with the process of being back and forth from your insurance company to road traffic? Well, BMG Insurance Agents and Brokers just made insuring and licensing your motor vehicle as easy as 1, 2, 3. Step 1. Visit us at the Road Traffic Department, Section 1, Thomas A. Robinson Sports Stadium. At our office, you can purchase or renew your insurance or get your vehicle inspected. We at BMG Insurance Agents and Brokers represent major carriers. Step 2. See the professionals at Road Traffic to get your vehicle licensed. Step 3. Enjoy your day. Insure with BMG Insurance Agents and Brokers today, saving you time and money. Your one-stop shop for all of your insurance needs. Great rates, convenient, excellent service. For more information, call us at 322-2221.
So you want a space, but not just any space. You need something with a little more potential. So how about 1,000 square feet of room to play with? Superb audio and video production capability, digital LED wall, full lighting grid, and about 124 seats to accommodate a full studio audience with so many other features. Make us your home for your next concert, conference, and so much more. Honestly, the possibilities are endless. Here at ILTV Studios, we'd love to bring your next event to life. So what do you say? Do you want our space?
Welcome back to Sidebar 103 The Beat Podcast, powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna, and I'm here today with architecture extraordinaire Craig Delancey, Buildings Control Officer in the Division of Building Control at the Ministry of Works. I got most of it. Yes. Off the top of my head. I just call you Mr. Delancey, but try to give you all, because you do a lot of work. Even it's difficult to get this much time with you. Like, probably not going to see you for the rest of the year now. I've used up all my allotted time in this interview. I was going to ask a question about why it's important to get permits, but I feel could that affect somebody's insurance if the insurance company was like, hey, did you get permits to add this on?
Well, some insurance companies, especially depending on the nature of the business or the building's function, they would require you to have insurance. And so even with volatile gases, we also oversee that area. And for someone to carry out that operation of LPG gas, you need to have insurance coverage.
So you mean just to provide it as a service to somebody?
Yes, the gas companies, they have to show us evidence of their insurance coverage for liabilities.
Right, I would imagine. So, and then you have the incidents
And
like that
with
happen?
many buildings or office buildings, they tend to require insurance coverage as well.
Yeah, and so making sure that you have the
Yeah.
right permits and the building
Yes,
stuff would
and
all go with that.
when it comes to home insurances or buildings, normally they would want to see that you had a valid building permit or an occupancy certificate. Also, in the real estate industry, if you are selling a building, normally the legal officers would require evidence that you had obtained an occupancy certificate for that building that is now being put on the market to be sold.
What is the base the bare minimum to get an occupancy certificate? Because I see a
Well,
lot of efficiencies on the market now. So like
uh-huh.
what is required to make sure like, okay, this building is up to standard?
Well, to gain an occupancy certificate, you must, first of all, you must have had a valid building permit to construct that building.
Right.
During the construction process, you are required to have mandatory inspections. And that's for the structural, electrical, mechanical services to make sure the integrity minimum standards are being met. So when a person starts construction, they are required to make written requests for inspections. We would then carry out the inspections during those stages of the construction. And at the end of the construction period, you would request the occupancy certificate. Upon requesting that occupancy certificate, we do a final check to make sure what was on the approved plans is now completed.
Right.
And that would sort of signify that your building has been built to the minimum code standards.
Right. So so it's the minimum. So like, is it it's a structural integrity thing more than an amenities thing. So it doesn't matter how many bathrooms you have,
Yes.
in so much that
Well, the occupancy is based on what was originally approved.
Right.
So if you had an apartment building, 5 units or whatever, the occupancy would reflect that.
Okay. Okay. So now, Mr. Delancey, right? Let's say you go and you're gonna buy a used vehicle, all right? You might not know everything about cars. The recommendation is you take your mechanic with you. You take somebody who know about cars. They check with the car and they say, no boy, the actuator, I don't know, the flux capacitor, whatever it might be, something wrong with that. They're supposed to be making that noise, right? And they'll warn you either you shouldn't pay this much for the car or this car has these issues with whatever, right? Is there something in place for, and it may be for persons who are purchasing a home, but for most persons in the Bahamas, they're renting, right? Is there something in place where, as a renter, I know that this place has an occupancy certificate? This is a stable place. If I go live inside these people, efficiency, the roofing and collapse. I mean, is there something in place for that?
Not in that sense. I mean, if you feel that you may have a concern when you go to that particular apartment, then you can ask the landlord whether they have an occupancy certificate for that building.
They run me.
Or that unit.
Right.
But there's nothing really in place to say whether the building is built to standard
Right.
without having or seeing an occupancy certificate.
Right. So and the only way to see that would probably be if the person was either purchasing it or for legal reasons, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it tend to pop up more in cases of that nature.
So well, let me phrase this question correctly. A lot of persons, they Grammy dad, They inherit their Grammy 2-bedroom house. They turn around and say, well, I already have my house. I'll put this on rent. But they don't rent it as a two-bedroom home. They rent it, they say, let me cut this into 2 portions. Then they get greedy. They say, I can make this 4 efficiencies. I don't need to make $2,000 a month. I can make $4,000. I can make $5,000 a month off a Grammy or house, right? What is the process the same in terms of before you could cut this up into efficiencies, they need to get a permit, and when they do cut it up into efficiencies, is there a line to say, okay, this is the minimum square footage that you are allowed to call a home for somebody?
Yes, well, the current building code outlines minimum standards for bedrooms. If it's an apartment, if it's a 1-bedroom apartment, that bedroom ought to be 120 square feet minimum in size.
Okay.
If it's a 2-bedroom, then one has to be 120 and the other one can be 100 square feet in size. Nowadays, you have persons building more efficiencies,
right,
where it's like one open room. And so you would find that varies quite a bit. And then, of course, now it's not in the law or in the code at this point, but you'd see persons in the U.S. and talking about small homes,
right,
or tiny homes, where the size is much less. And we would have to look at that in the near future, persons wanting to build tiny homes.
Yeah, because of the affordability for the.
But getting back to you cutting up your Grammy's house, before you do that, you should have a building permit showing that building subdivided into whatever number of units you wish for it to be.
Okay.
Because it's important from a life safety point of view as well. You don't want to have a situation where a fire breaks out in one unit and easily spreads to the other unit. And so there are many requirements. Then from a zoning point of view too, physical planning looks at the density of properties,
right,
how many persons or
single family,
units should
multi-family.
be on that property.
Right.
And here again, that house might have been located in an area zoned as single family only. And so you ought to ensure that you get a valid building permit before you go ahead and decide to cut up the building.
I mean, so basically I should make friends with architects and engineers to have them check out the building before I go in, because
they can be your agents to ensure that you get the right advice.
You spoke a little bit about tiny homes, and there's a lot of technology, because the limited number of homes available is a problem across the world in, I'm going to say, developing and developed nations, where everybody's in these city centers and stuff because that's where all the jobs are. The number of homes available is a limited resource, essentially. All right. You have persons, I've seen things online where they have machines that could print out houses, for lack of a better term, where you set up the machine, it squared out the cement in the plan thing. In a week, you have a cement house and you just gotta put the roof on top of it. On Amazon sells tiny homes anywhere from $15,000 and up, where you put in your order, they'll ship you the parts. Somebody come and over the weekend, y'all click the house together. I've seen other things where a person sells modular homes. The ones on Amazon, I don't know if they're rated for all environments. Some of those things look like this just looked like some fun for somebody who live in the Midwest to throw up inside the bush somewhere. But then I've seen modular ones being advertised as, oh, this is rated for Category 5 hurricanes to withstand. Or here at the ministry, here in your division, all right, have persons brought any of these plans and say, hey, I would like to purchase this small home to put on my property. Can I get this certified? Like, is that a thing? Because, go ahead.
Yeah. Yes. In recent times, that has been pretty common, where we've been getting a lot of persons inquiring about bringing in modular or prefabricated buildings. There is a process required to do that. And that is to have all the technical data and specifications on that particular module or pre-manufactured structure. It has to be submitted by a local licensed structural engineer who would review all that data to make sure it meets our current building code standards. We would then review it, and if we find it to meet our minimum code standards, then we will give you an approval, and that is called a product approval. And that is given like for a 3-year intervals, and you can have it renewed after that 3-year period if you want to bring in more buildings of that type.
So you get a product approval to you could bring in multiple of those within that 3-year period.
Yes.
All right.
But it has to meet the code standards.
If it's this exact same, if you get it approved, it's this model, you're allowed to bring it in.
Yeah.
And would those would they be treated like how a regular building is treated, or would they be treated like we need to check back in to make sure that how it withstands in this environment?
Well, initially we would review it to make sure that from a structural integrity and also the electrical and mechanical design meets our standards. The engineer would then review those items to make sure it's in line with our current code. And I would like to caution persons out there not to go ahead and purchase these pre-manufactured buildings or modules without first getting approval from us. Because the customs department is required to hold any item without that doesn't have a letter of approval from us for importation.
So don't waste your money if you ain't do it the right way.
Right. So before you go ahead and make that purchase, make sure you have a local engineer review that the material and technical data on that particular module or building prior to you going ahead and putting a deposit down or purchasing it.
Thank you for giving me a heads up before I made that purchase on Amazon. We're going to take one last commercial break. When we come back, we're going to wrap it up. You're watching and listening to Sidebar 103 The Beat podcast powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. We'll be right back.
International events and production. Alive, Bahamas Air, Everybody Wins Live, and Field of Vibes Bahamas Weekend presents
the Evolution Concert on Saturday, March 29th at Clifford Park, featuring Vibes Cartel and Friends.
Bahamas, Nassau, where it's Saturday the 29th of March.
It's one of the biggest events to hit the shores of Nassau, Bahamas.
Get ready for Adi the Teacher, the Dancehall King, a.k.a. the World Boss, Vibes Cartel.
Real bad man, no Magdalena shot.
Log into our official airline Bahamas Air for travel specials. It gets better. We're also giving away a brand new Cybertruck.
And up to $50,000 in cash and prizes at the concert. Compliments of Everybody Wins Live.
Log into our website, feelthevibesweekend.com.
For tickets, tables, skyboxes, and more info.
Visit Ticket Flare or email intlevents242@gmail.com.
WhatsApp or call 1242-808-2369.
I remember Cartel ever did it.
back to Sidebar 103 The Beat Podcast, powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. I'm here today with Building Control Officer, Mr. Craig Delancey. Mr. Delancey, I'm going to give you the final word. What is it that you want to leave the Bahamian people with?
Well, I would just like to let the general population know that it's important that you obtain a valid building permit before you start construction. We want to make sure that your building stands up to the minimum standards on hurricanes, the impact of hurricanes and other issues that may occur. We want to make sure that you request inspections during the construction period so that when the time comes for your occupancy certificate, you would have met all of the requirements in order to have that occupancy certificate issued. We've had in the past persons who have missed areas of those inspections, and when it comes to the occupancy, you may have to lay open the building in certain areas so that we can confirm that the structural integrity of the building has been met. And quality control, you want to make sure that you have your architect or engineer assist in carrying out inspections during construction as well to make sure that your building meets the standards and you're getting what you paid for.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much for granting me this time with you, sir. And hopefully
it's my pleasure.
Everybody's able to take away something from it. Thank you for joining us. Once again, it's been Sidebar 103 The Beat Podcast, powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna.
Edenwell has expanded their testing menu. We now offer blood work, drug screening, and so much more. Our hours of operation are Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., located on 11 Madera Street. We are here for all of your laboratory needs, with fast and reliable lab work done by our friendly and knowledgeable staff. Let us help you take the needed steps to stay in the know about your health. Let's keep working towards a healthier you. Stay Eden well.
Tired of driving around from place to place just to get your car insured and licensed? Frustrated with the process of being back and forth from your insurance company to road traffic? Well, BMG Insurance Agents and Brokers just made insuring and licensing your motor vehicle as easy as 1, 2, 3. Step 1. Visit us at the Road Traffic Department, Section 1, Thomas A. Robinson Sports Stadium. At our office, you can purchase or renew your insurance or get your vehicle inspected. We at BMG Insurance Agents and Brokers represent major carriers. Step 2. See the professionals at Road Traffic to get your vehicle licensed. Step 3. Enjoy your day. Insure with BMG Insurance Agents and Brokers today, saving you time and money. Your one-stop shop for all of your insurance needs. Great rates, convenient, excellent service. For more information, call us at 322-2221.
So you want a space, but not just any space. You need something with a little more potential. So how about 1,000 square feet of room to play with? Superb audio and video production capability, digital LED wall, full lighting grid, and about 124 seats to accommodate a full studio audience with so many other features. Make us your home for your next concert, conference, and so much more. Honestly, the possibilities are endless. Here at ILTV Studios, we'd love to bring your next event to life. So what do you say? Do you want our space?